There we go. I think we're live.
Hi.
Well, hello there.
What's
hello,
up, everyone?
This is David Storch and Abby Walla, and they're my guests today. And this is super exciting because these are the real thing. These are Hollywood actors, writers, and producers. And David even did a whole comedy series in New York. And I'm so excited to have them on here and just tell us about your story of how you guys got into the acting world, and then how did you find each other, and then build your business about helping all of us port entrepreneurs get online and really tell our stories and share our passion with our clients and our ideal clients. So Abby, why don't you start and tell us about
I was gonna say, David, you should start this time. I feel like it always.
She called you. Tell us how you got into acting, Abigail.
Okay, all right. So I first got into, I started in middle school, I guess, with acting. When I got into high school, I grew up in Minneapolis, and at a certain point, I was very done with high school. I just didn't want to be there anymore, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I was ready to go do it. And I had done, when I was 16, I came out to Los Angeles and I did a summer program at this really renowned acting conservatory, and got invited to do their full-time program, which is a college program, so you had to have graduated high school to do it. And I was like, man, I love it here. This is exactly what I want to do. Had that like sense of belonging, where you feel like you're in the right place doing the right thing. And so I went back home, and I still had a year of high school left, but I went to my guidance counselor and I was like, hey, so I need to graduate as soon as possible so I can go to Los Angeles. Like, how do I do that? Yeah, so I had this amazing guidance counselor, and
I need to get out of Minnesota.
I am done with Minnesota. So I was like, I do love the lakes, and I do love Minnesota, but I was just done at that point. And once you get a sense of that feeling of that you're on the path of what you should be doing, it's very hard to go back and do anything else. And I don't know if people resonate with that. Like if you're stepping into this entrepreneurial journey or whatever, and you get that feeling like, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's very hard to then go back to a 9-to-5 or to whatever else you are doing when you have that feeling. So my guidance counselor and I sat down and mapped out a strategy for me to be able to get enough credits in a few months to graduate high school. So I took most of my classes at the university. They were a higher number of credits. I busted my ass, and within a few months I had moved back to California. I just turned 17 and started this
all on your own. No family.
Yeah.
And your family was totally like for this.
Totally is maybe not a word I would use, but they were scared and supportive.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's so funny because now if I meet kids who are like 16, 17 now, I'm like, good Lord, do not send them away to California on their own. But I was very determined. So I came out here, started on stage doing theater, went through my acting conservatory, then started working on television, I was recurring on a show on ABC Family, Switched Up Birth. I've done shows on ABC, Netflix, HBO, things like that. And then at an acting studio, I met David Storch. But before I get to that, David, catch us up to how you then got to there.
Sure. I was born on a dark, stormy. Just kidding. It was
David, fast forward the story a little bit. Let's start a little later in that story.
Okay. So I got into acting. I kind of always knew I wanted to make people laugh for a living. So I was actually forced into acting by my mother.
Forced?
Like, yeah, which is kind of like,
he was a cute kid. He was like one of those.
Oh, wanted to make money off of you.
One of those things, yeah. But no, what was interesting is that like I always knew I wanted to make people laugh, and then eventually I was kind of like, oh, you can do acting. Like I saw like an Adam Sandler movie and I was like, oh, like I can do that. I'm like, oh, you get paid how much to do that? Oh, I should do that. And I would always talk about it. And I was entering high school. My mom was like, time to put the money where your mouth is. You have to do a play. And I was like, heck no, I do sports. I'm not doing a play. I'll get made fun of. And she was like, you say you want to do this, so let's do it. And she forced me to sign up. And God bless her, because I ended up getting a lead in the play and I loved it. And
this is so High School Musical. That's like the exact plot of High School Musical.
Vanessa Hudgens, and we got married.
Here somewhere, right?
No, so I started doing that. Went to college for it, for acting and film. And got really involved in the comedy scene there. So I went to school in New York, and I was on like our school's version of like Saturday Night Live, or I was one of the main writers and the lead cast members. And then I would go into the city.
You were writing comedy.
Writing comedy.
And, oh my gosh.
Performing it as well.
Wow.
And then I would go into the city and I would do stand-up comedy and improv. So I was doing improv through the Upright Citizens Brigade, which is a major improv school, and they taught me how to do that. I was lucky enough to have some like amazing teachers who are like now A-list celebrities, which is kind of crazy. And then it was doing the comedy clubs, and in order to like perform on stage, you have to like start off with like open mics, and then you have to build your way up to these like bringer shows, which is like you have to like bring
hard in New York, hard audience, right?
And then eventually you have to audition, and then you get passed, which means you get accepted to perform. And then I eventually was getting passed at all these comedy clubs and getting to go out every night. And
there's nothing as brutal as being a stand-up comedian.
It is.
It's a grind, which is why I was not interested.
It's night work, right? So you have a whole different clock going on because you're, up doing the bar scene, club scene, right? Not getting to bed late, sleeping during light hours.
Well, when you're starting out, you're not sleeping during light hours.
You're working.
I had to work 9 to 5, and then I would go to the comedy. I would get off around 6 o'clock. I would go to the comedy club by 7, and I would be working the comedy clubs all over the city until about 2 in the morning. Then I'd go home and quickly pass out and wake up around 7 or 8 and go to work, do it all over again. And I did this 7 days a week, and I ended up running my own show at the Laugh Factory in Times Square, and then I was performing around the country, opening for bigger names. It's a grind, and you would get paid like once you get past that comedy clubs, you get paid $25 a show. You ain't making money.
Not till you get your Netflix special, like 20 years later.
Oh my gosh!
No, if I would host, maybe I'd get 100, and then you're only. Once you
living in New York.
Once you become famous, then it's different. Then it's like, oh, I'm going to go on a tour around the country and I'll get paid X amount of money for every show. And that's, good.
Yeah.
So how did you guys hook up in California? Yes?
Right. So David then moved out to California, where I already had been living, and we met each other through our acting studio. David was actually hosting a stand-up show at the studio where we went. I would see him do his comedy all the time, and saw that I was writing at the time, writing comedy too, but more for, not for stand-up, but more for scripts for like film and television and things like that. And I had seen that David and I had a lot of, our senses of humor were very overlapping. We both come from very big dysfunctional families. We had a lot of shared trauma in our upbringings. Fun trauma.
Our life is a lot like Curb Your Enthusiasm inside that.
Yeah. So David and I started collaborating, and then we had this like chance run-in at Sundance Film Festival, where we were like hanging out there, and we were just, do you want to tell the story, David? Where I was like, David was drinking a lot and I was not. And I was like, dude, like we should write together. Like, why have we never written together? And David's like, yeah, totally, let's do it. And then we like get back to LA, and I text David and I'm like, hey, so when are we writing together? And he's like,
what?
Who is this?
Like, what the heck is this? What is she talking about?
But luckily I was sober, and then David and I started writing together. And since we then wrote a short film and this is where our transition into the entrepreneurial world started, was that David and I wrote this short film called Holiday Hostage, and we needed to raise money to make the film. So we wanted to learn how to crowdfund. And we actually hired this guy, Justin Giddings, known as the Kickstarter guy, to coach us on learning how to crowdfund so we could raise money to make our film. David and I are overachievers, and we ended up raising, in our first 24 hours, we raised over $20,000 in our first day, and then ended up raising $50,000 throughout the month to make this film with no celebrities. We didn't have a cast or anything. It was like just us, like figuring out how to market online.
Just using Facebook.
Using Facebook. Yeah. And so then we were like, I started going like, okay, there's got to be more money. There's money to be made online. Like, how do I do this? And even though our careers are going great, there's typically a need for some sort of a side hustle. And you want to be flexible and things like that. So you can go to auditions, so you can work and all that stuff. So I had been doing different types of jobs. And then I got into the entrepreneur world to start a digital marketing agency. That seemed to be like the easy transition in. And I was able to scale my agency really quickly past the 6-figure mark while still keeping it on the side. David and I were traveling the country promoting our film at the time at film festivals. So I'd be like in the hotel being like, hey, I just need like an hour to like work on this thing. And David's like, where's all this money coming from? Like, what are you doing? Like,
you just stop selling drugs.
Yeah. And so I was like, you should do this thing too. And so then David started jumping into the entrepreneur world. And through this, we started seeing that there was this massive opportunity for us to actually combine our skill set of, we started meeting all these entrepreneurs who had these amazing stories, who knew the power of video, but were really afraid to show up on camera because they'd never done it. Or when they would show up on camera, we weren't seeing their charismatic personalities come across in the way that we know them. They were coming across stiff or awkward or boring. And so David and I actually independently each had the same idea that we could solve this problem. And
basically what we decided was, like Abby said, she's appeared on all those shows. I mean, I've done movies with Adam Sandler and Chris Rock. Was on HBO Silicon Valley, Amazon's Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton, and et cetera. And we said, we have all these Hollywood tricks, tips, techniques, secrets, and we can distill all that and give these amazing techniques to the entrepreneur world. And so basically we was taking our 20 plus years in Hollywood and decided, hey, let's build a coaching program where we can just say, hey, here's 20 years of techniques that all your favorite A-list stars are using. When you watch them on interviews, when you watch them be like, oh my God, that was so enthralling, like they captured me. We just give you all of that just in a distilled form, make it attainable and achievable.
So you guys that are on here right now, I just want to tell you, they do have a course. What's the name of the course?
Crushing It on Camera. So
And we'll put the link to that in the comments below. So if anyone, urge everyone who's watching, all my members here, you guys, this is absolutely something to participate in and get skilled in, because that's part of it, is just presenting yourself online, right?
Especially as coaches, which it sounds like is a big part of your group, or people who are coaches. We can go into statistics of like why video is so important, because video and video content is like everything right now. It's such a massive amount of having an internet presence. But if you're a coach, it's like you really need to allow yourself to be visible. It's a funny thing where a lot of times coaches work with their clients on showing up, being authentic, being visible, breaking through different barriers and challenges, but they themselves have a lot of fears about showing up and being visible. And that's totally normal, and that's okay. And what David and I try to say is like, people think just because we all have a camera in our pocket that we should naturally be good on camera. And if you're not, that there's something wrong with you, but just like David said, we have decades of experience. It's a technique and a skill set, just like everything else is. So if you get the fundamentals of how to do that, it's going to allow you to then be showing up and being visible. And being on camera is the quickest way to build the know, like, and trust factor that make people want to buy from you, that make people want to follow your journey, that want to, you know, just those people that become raving fans of yours. So it's not just like, oh, this is cool, show up on camera, like whatever. It's like, no, if you're trying to build a business, this is crucial. It is a crucial element of it, especially for coaches and of anyone who's going to be like the face of their brand in any type of way.
And that's what they are. They are the brand. It's them. They're selling their knowledge. It's not like a product, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, people always kind of like need to remember that when people buy from you, or even when you buy from someone else, if you're like working with them as a person, so if you're a coach and someone's buying basically you, right, to work with you, or if you are buying with a coach, you're buying to work with them. I mean, yes, their product, but them. They just want to know you're not a jerk. That's really,
and that they resonate.
Yeah, but they want to know,
right?
Nobody wants to work with I was going to say a swear, but jerk, right? They all want to make sure that if I'm putting this amount of money and I'm going to work with you with for 6 weeks, 90 days, a year, that I'm actually going to get along with you. I'm going to relate to you. I'm going to enjoy your work. And no one can know that through written text. No one can know that through, someone else being on video for you. If they're working with you, they won't know that if you don't do video, until they work with you. And it's a lot harder to get someone to buy when they've never seen you before and they're only getting you from like a quick little like phone call, Zoom call maybe.
Mm-hmm.
When you do video,
no, if you do video, your sales calls are so much easier because they've already like self-decided whether they resonate with you or not. And that's the great thing, is that like your audience will self-filter. The people who resonate with you, who vibe with you, who are your ideal audience, they're going to stick around. They're going to comment on your stuff. They're going to watch your stuff. The people who don't vibe with you are going to leave. And that's great, because you don't want to waste your time. You don't have to be everything for everybody. You just have to be, attracting the right kind of people. So it's going to make your sales calls so much easier by the time people hop on with you. If they already have that know, like, and trust factor, it's just a matter of when do we start,
Definitely. It's definitely, what is the chemistry between the two people? It's my whole thing is, here we all are, the internet has been around for 20 years now. It's like video has allowed us to come out from behind the curtain, right? We're all kind of like hiding back here behind the text, right? And just written words. But now it's like we have an opportunity to be visible, as you were saying, and people want that. They don't want to be, who is this person on the other side? If I'm going to invest $1,000, $2,000 with someone to get coached by, I want to know, who they are a little bit more than just what they're writing down on a Facebook post.
That somebody else could have written for them, too. That's like that their copywriter wrote, like that doesn't mean anything to me. I want to see who somebody is. And, David and I always talk about, and this isn't something we created, is that people buy based on emotion. Sales is storytelling. People are buying on an emotion. They're coming to you to solve a problem, a pain point. And you need to be visible and show up for them to even have that chance of seeing if you're the right fit for that. And we all, even as coaches, we all have stuff that we're working through that might stop us from showing up, but you have to do it for your audience, for your business. It's just incredibly important.
Yeah. The storytelling is a big thing today. Years ago, it was always just provide the education, just give them tips, just give them, how-tos, do's and don'ts. And now it's like we've moved into this whole different, area of sharing our stories with people, and not the wounds, but the scars, right? How someone kind of moved through something. And people are really gravitating towards people's stories. And it's amazing how people are being so authentic and real, and showing I'm just as human as you are.
Yep. And that's like such a key thing too, because it's not just like, because I know a lot of people maybe watching this are saying like, but I don't have anything like crazy like with my story. It's not like I came from the bottom and now I'm here. And that's not what all stories are about. Sure, that's some people's story, but for others, it's literally like people are doing videos that are just like, hey, I was stuck trying to figure out how to make this click funnel. And then I did X, Y, and Z, and now I'm here, and now I'm able to make 10K a month doing that. That's a story, and that's a story that a lot of people can relate to. So I think a lot of people can kind of get in their own way and be like, oh, I wasn't poor,
Homeless or something. Yeah.
to drugs, which
Or
we hear those stories.
Family and,
yeah, and those are super inspiring stories, but you can be just as inspiring with the like, hey, I was just trying to figure this out and I couldn't. And then like, I'm going to save you guys 3 months of struggle because I just did it. So here's how you do it. And now I'm doing it. People are going to be like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
It's finding the story in the everyday. So all day, everything that happens to us has story attached to it. It's just a matter of training yourself to start seeing the story in that stuff. So then when you get on camera to share those lessons, instead of it just being a bland how-to video, you're able to share a story that still is telling the how-to. You're still teaching that thing, but you're teaching it through a story, which is going to be so much more captivating and interesting for your audience. And again,
probably
building
will
that
remember
emotion.
it more, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And they'll actually watch it.
Yeah, and remember that there's simple tips and techniques to do that. I mean, that's what our 20 years is right? I mean, as a stand-up comedian, that's what we do. We take the mundane, everyday things, and we tell a story with it. Our story.
So the other day I was, it's like
just happens to end in humor. But that's it. We're just taking the everyday things that are relatable to everyone, but are really just our personal stuff, and saying like, okay, here's the story to it. And there's a formula to do that, which is what Abby and I obviously talk about in our program and stuff.
And you guys also have a free training, right?
Yes, we do. So we brought a free training for everyone, and I think you have the link that you can drop below. That is our 5 secrets to crushing your Facebook lives and getting tons of engagement without having a panic attack. Since we know that going live, for you guys, whether you know it or not, going live is one of the most highly engaged things that you can do on Facebook. Facebook literally tells your friends and things like, Abby's live right now. And so it's great for engagement. It's also terrifying because you're live and you have one shot at it. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can be doing to go into those confidently so that you're able to really maximize those videos. It's so often that we're like scrolling our newsfeed and we just see somebody's like, hey, so I'm, today I had this thing where I was, walking around, and it's like, they're just like rambling all over the place. And it's just like, what is the point of this video?
Like, get to the point, hurry up, get to the point. We don't have much time.
Yeah. And so we have different techniques in our free training that we share with everyone. And then also just in general, like, David and I always say, like, lead with value, so if you are going to be making a video and documenting your journey, think about, you're not just sharing a story just to share it. You're sharing it with the intent of your audience being able to take something away from it. So don't forget, like, what's the takeaway? What's the value for them? What's the epiphany that they're supposed to have from watching this story? It's not just, I'm telling it because I need to vent about it. It's like, have some purpose and value for your audience. That's how people are going to keep coming back for more.
And I like what you said is, people need to know the Facebook will push out videos to your friends more than they will push out your post.
Yeah.
That's number one. And I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about, because 85% are watching through their phone, and videos, you need sound. Are you an advocate of putting captions below can you do it on lives, or is it only on videos?
So if you do it on lives, you need 3 third-party apps. It's a little bit tricky. Hopefully Facebook will improve that sooner rather than later. But if you do pre-recorded videos on Instagram or Facebook or things like that, definitely add captions. That is, and it's, Yeah, like
Make that
you can
quick.
use rev.com is an easy source. I think it's $1 a minute, super cheap, and you can upload them to the video. So that's definitely something to do.
Yeah, yeah. So I just think, a lot of people are on, buses and subways or in a theater and, they want to listen to a video with their earplugs in, who's listening with the ear, but rather read it, right? Read what's
Hmm.
going on quicker, that sort of thing. So what else? What other tips do we have? Just, as we start to, anything else you want to share with the group here?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not in I can't see the comments. So I don't know if there's been any questions that have come up or if people are,
They're just watching.
oh, silently, guys, come on, drop some questions if you have them, because we have so many different tips and techniques and things that we can be sharing, but we want to make sure we're sharing what's most relevant to you guys. One of the biggest things David and I teach is that we have what's called our 3-take rule. So one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs come to us is they don't have a process for creating their videos. And so what happens is they want them to feel like they're doing it on the fly. They want them to feel natural and conversational. So they literally create their videos on the fly. So they hit record and then, they mess up in 15 seconds and then they stop and they start again and then they hit record and then they forget their name and then they stop and they start and they mess up. And then all of a sudden, somebody's done 20 different takes or 20 tries on a 2-minute video or a 5-minute video. And it's incredibly frustrating. You get, your confidence is dropping, your anxiety and frustration are going through the roof. So the biggest thing that we teach is what we call the 3-take rule, where you don't hit record until you're ready to create your video in 3 takes or less. And if you're doing a Facebook Live, you only get 1 take. So you prepare until you can do that in 1 take or less. The preparation process can be a little different for everybody. We have a 4-step process that, we teach that we're big fans of bullet pointing. So that's where we typically start that process. But whatever process you do a process and actually know what you're going to talk about in your video instead of just hitting go live or hitting record and trying to figure it out as you go. That's the number one way to create a video that, sucks if you do it that way. But instead, if you have the 3-take rule or the 1-take rule and you prepare, that's how you come across as your best self. You deliver amazing value, people watch, engage. So that's a huge thing. David, it looks like you're going to add.
I have to do is always I have to put the cat in the bathroom. She loves to walk in front of the camera when I go live. I put her in the bathroom with a towel and she's in
my
there.
Dog is
forget about
sleeping.
It. Oh, Who's that?
That's Oscar. He's sleeping next to me.
Oh, that's great. And then I also put on a clipboard, and I use a Sharpie, so it's big and bold, my, what am I going to cover? And I set it up, I have a monitor, so it doesn't matter. No one's going to see the monitor because the webcam is above, and I just put it right in front and I just go through it. But I certainly could be better at stories. I think I'm going to take your free training or your course. That's for sure. There's always room for improvement. I think I've been doing them often now, more so in my group than on my profile page. I feel safer in my group because I'm getting to know the people in there than on my profile page. But I could definitely use some comedy. I could use better storytelling because I think I'm someone that just kind of goes boom, 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 like a teacher with a ruler, and nobody's going to watch that. That's for sure. It must be a real skill to be able to get the story around the education or the value, which you guys have the formula for that.
Yeah, it's all about just having a natural conversation, right? Like if you were talking with a friend and giving them that same value, you're not going to be like this, then do that, this. You're going to be having a normal, as we all know, that like ebb and flow conversation where you'll be giving that value while telling that natural story. And the biggest, I think you asked for a little thing. I think the biggest, one of the biggest things we can quickly tell you right now that is a takeaway for everyone here is when you're talking to the camera, whether it's pre-recorded, whether it's live, just know who you're talking to, and that can make things so much easier. So that, and that can change for every type of video, right? Sometimes you might say, I'm going to pretend, and this is something like actors do all the time. I'm going to pretend I'm talking to my best friend or a parent or a spouse, right? Significant other. And that can make you come across much more natural, because now when you imagine, instead of just this void or this lens, and you're imagining an actual person who you care and love about and have like some sort of emotional connection towards, it naturally makes you start talking like your normal self.
Do you put a photograph like near the lens at all? Or to make it easier?
You could, if you needed that. We don't say to do that, but if that's something that you need to practice with, by all means, you can go for that. But I think it's
more of a mental shift.
You have the ability to have that mental capability of be like, okay, I'm talking to my best friend right now.
And like take a second and imagine them, it's like, okay, who am I talking to? Take that second, visualize them.
For me, is like, I'm looking now, like we're on Zoom, so I'm looking at your faces and I'm not looking at the camera. Right now I'm looking at the camera, but usually I'm just looking at you. And I think when we're on our phone or doing a video, we're looking at ourselves and we're not looking at the camera, right?
Yeah.
So I see that a lot on Facebook Lives, that there's no eye contact because everybody's looking at themselves. So I was thinking, well, maybe if you put a photograph on top of the lens,
you could, we don't recommend that. If you're going to tape anything, we always say, Abby mentioned those bullet points. If you're using your phone, take your bullet points there. Therefore, you have something to rely on, where
you can put a sticky note like right here with like, here are the 3 bullet points of what I'm going to talk about. And then you cannot look at yourself, and you're like forced to actually look into the camera, because it does make a difference.
And then when you're like, if you get to a point where you're like, oh, I forgot what's coming next, because your head's always like a second ahead of you, right? When you're talking.
Yeah.
It seems like you're like miles ahead in your head. You can quickly, what's next, right? If I'm looking directly at the camera, and I have my sticky right below it, I can just quickly dart my eyes and be like, see the next line, which could be, hot dogs. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to talk about hot dogs.
That is a great tip. Oh my God, I didn't know that.
And David makes so many videos about hot dogs.
All I do is make videos about hot dogs. Hebrew National,
favorite food.
And wait,
Frankfurters.
Yeah, sausage, bratwurst, spicy. What if I just talk for another like 2 minutes? Relish.
No, stop.
That's a great tip. It's those little things that make it easier to go live, which you guys have all these great giveaways and tips to, and I'm definitely going to hop into, I'll start with the free training and then go into the course. But definitely everyone who's on here, and people, we're recording it. It's being actually, they'll come back and they will see it, and hopefully we'll get people into your free training, because you can't do it enough, right?
Yeah. And we also have a Facebook group where a free Facebook group called Confidence on Camera for Entrepreneurs. So if you're looking for the next step after the free training, that's a safe place where we do different Facebook Live challenges. We have different prompts where people are able to practice their Facebook Lives in a safe environment. And that's a totally free group.
Fantastic.
So, and we do a bunch of trainings in there. We bring on different video experts on different topics and things like that. So, if you're not quite ready to dive into our paid program, that would be like the next place to start.
Great. And that's great. You can just go live in a safe environment and get some coaching or just to practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Desiree says, great tips. Thanks, Desiree. I'm also hoping I'm saying your name right.
Right. So, okay. I think so. You've got a free training, you have a course, you have a group, Crush It on Camera. It's a Facebook group, which is free for people to join. Well,
the Facebook group is Confidence on Camera for Entrepreneurs, and then
Okay.
our course, our program. So if you want to really take it to the next level and actually learn like all the storytelling techniques, how to effectively tell a story so that people want to so they convert, so people want to buy, that's in our Crushing It on Camera course. So
Good.
Confidence on Camera for Entrepreneurs is the free group. And then if you're interested in the program and you want to work with us further, that's crushingitonCamera.com. Or you can just DM David Storch, Abby Walla, find either one of us on Facebook, and we'd be happy to talk to you about where's the right place for you to begin.
Great. And I'm going to put those links below so people have access to it in the comments. And, you know, I don't want to keep people. We've been online for about, 40 minutes, half hour, 40 minutes. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been so fun.
Of you. And your story is fantastic. I just love it. And, you know, it's just good to have a resource, someone who is really an expert in video and Facebook Live, and, you know, just to get good at it and to use it effectively. So I stress again, if anyone's watching this today, you know, just hop into their group, get into their free training, and just start with some expert coaches around you that can guide you. That would
We're here to help.
What?
Exactly.
We're here to help.
Here to.
Great. Okay, you guys, thanks so much. And
thanks so much for having us.
Good. Bye, David. Bye, Abby.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Okay.
I think we're still live.
I don't know how to get out of here. Here we go.